Listen, my children, and you shall hear some very interesting things.
More than 200 years ago, Americans fought a revolution against big government.
He has erected a multitude of new offices and has sent hither swarms of officials to harass our people and eat out their substance.
George III and his bureaucrats taxed and controlled their lives until the people said, enough. The government in Washington, D.C. makes you nostalgic for old King George. The royal tax collectors took about 25% from our ancestors. This year, government at all levels will extract 50% of our money to waste. And not gently. IRS agents use wiretaps, mail openings, informants.
Hi, welcome to On Second Thought. I'm the co-host of the show, Susan King, and the host of our show, Mr. William Wagner. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much,
Gunderson,
Susan.
Former head of the FBI in Southern California. Retired in 1979. I furnished considerable information to B.J. Wagner. If you want the full story, you want to know what's going on, watch B.J. Wagner.
Thank you, too, Ted Gunderson, former head of the FBI in 11,000 Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles for many years, the head guru of the FBI there. I love having Ted back. He died a few years ago, and I just make him keep coming back and helping with my intro. He was a good person. I think he actually got better after he left the FBI because then he was able to see some things. Today we got a really interesting show. First of all, I got fresh footage from yesterday at the Santa Barbara mudslide in Caldwell Canyon. Stuff that Channel 3 didn't show you. You can't find it anywhere else. I got the footage, and we're going to get to that. Before we get to that, however, I want to bring attention. I got a letter from a gentleman who's incarcerated in that private prison, and what he claims is planted evidence. And he's got a video up. And I don't know this gentleman. Here's the letter. I just got his letter. He says, Dear Mr. Wagner, I am a close friend and supporter of Mr. Bundy. Cliven shared a letter with me that you sent him dated December 27th, 2017, and he told me to tell you thanks for the support and that once he is released, he will definitely consider interviewing with you. I see that you are focused on court corruption and would like you to view the video presentation that I created. Which is on YouTube.com to view a brief sample of the corruption taking place in my case. You can search for capital LVMPD, planting evidence on camera, an 18-minute presentation. I would also like you to view the video presentation created by me and Ted Engel by searching Lombardo Lies Exposed, a 16 minutes and 30-second presentation which details the lies of sheriff in 2 trials of the Bundy case. Please share these videos to the public and help bring viral attention to these issues, as it is a critical time to do so. Cliven, Todd, and I thank you for your support. We wish to see you in the near future. Happy holidays. Dated January 2nd, 2018. I just got it 3 days ago. Took a long time to go from Pahrump, Nevada to Santa Maria. Well, thank you for the letter, and that's interesting. So I took a look at his video, and I want to let you decide what you think. I'm taking my hat off for you people that tuned in today. Very much appreciate you watching, and you're going to see some things from that mudslide. You can't, it was unbelievable. As I walked through that scene and filmed it for you people tonight, I got the feeling like my PTSD was coming back. I was back in Vietnam. It was very traumatic even to see what had happened to people's whole homes gone. Anyway, first video is a cop planting drug evidence. Take a look at this.
System. an officer appearing to plant drug evidence while his partners watched and apparently did nothing. Now, State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby reveals her office reviewed 123 cases involving these officers and is dismissing 34 of them because they rely on the officers' testimony.
Clearly, there's a credibility issue that's impacting other cases, and so that's essentially what we're here to report.
Prosecutors say the dismissed cases involve felony, weapon, and drug charges.
And we made a decision in each and every one of those cases, after a very thorough review of the facts, that we did not have a case to prosecute without the testimony of one or all of the three officers.
The body camera video involves an officer appearing to plant drugs in a can, thinking his camera was off. What he didn't know is it records 30 seconds prior to being turned on. That's when he goes back to the scene and pretends to discover the drugs he just placed. A man spent months in jail in that case until the public defender watched the video and notified Mosby's office, who allowed the same officer to testify in another case days later. Still, she defended how this case was handled.
There was one case that was heard on the morning that the information was distributed to all of our prosecutors. So we did miss it by one day, or a couple of hours for that matter, but there was no lag in any sort of time period.
Thank you. That officer, in my humble opinion, and remember, I'm a great-grandson of an elected sheriff who died of a gunshot wound. So I generally like to see things the way the cops do, but it's not their job to plant evidence. That's a felony. That cop should have gone to prison, served normal prison time for possession of illegal drugs, and then he should have served additional time for the felony of planting against somebody else, plus the time the innocent party had to spend in jail. I don't know if this Omar Quasi is innocent or not, but we're going to get to his film in a little bit. I have another one for you to see. Let's see this. I was amazed how much is available about cops being caught on their own dash cams planting evidence. There's a lot of these on YouTube. Look at this.
For Complex News, I'm Hanuman Welch. An LAPD officer was caught in a lie in court on Thursday in the case of a black man arrested following a hit-and-run accident. Both LAPD officers have been accused of planting drugs on the suspect during a traffic stop, and the LAPD has opened an investigation after a CBS 2 news report showed body cam footage of the incident. During the pretrial hearing for 52-year-old Ronald Shields, who was charged with a felony hit-and-run and possession of cocaine, Shields' attorney argued that the drugs were planted on his client at the time of the arrest. Even though the LAPD has been keeping body cam footage like this away from the public eye, CBS 2 news investigative reporter David Goldstein was able to obtain the footage of Shields' arrest, which appears to show officers placing drugs inside of Shields' wallet.
Watch this angle from the beginning. LAPD officer Gaxiola picks up Shields' wallet from the street, shows it to Officer Lee, who points to the suspect as if to say it's his. He puts it back down, then steps on the street, bends over and picks up a small bag with white powder. It eventually tested positive for drugs. He goes back on the sidewalk, picks up the wallet, and motions to Lee, and appears to put the bag...
This is the first time that LAPD body cam footage has been seen by the public, and if you're wondering why cops would plant drugs on a suspect while, wearing a recording device, part one of that answer is they don't seem to care about potentially destroying someone's life, and part two of that answer is that officers were possibly unaware that the body camera also captures and saves footage 30 seconds prior to when the camera is actually activated. That is, when the alleged planting of the cocaine took place. One angle from the body cam shows LAPD officer Gaxiola picking up Shields' wallet off the ground, showing it to the officer Samuel Lee standing next to him, while motioning to the suspect as if to say that the wallet belongs to him. After putting the wallet back down, a small bag with a white substance, which later tested positive for cocaine, was picked up off the street and eventually placed in Shields' wallet. After the investigation aired, the LAPD said in a statement, quote, "The LAPD takes all allegations of misconduct seriously and, as in all cases, will conduct a thorough investigation." I feel like there's something someone has said about this sort of thing in the past. All right.
Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad 'cause I'm brown.
Now I guess we'll just wait to see what happens to cops who not only plant evidence, but then lie about it under oath. That's all for now. For everything else, subscribe to Complex on YouTube.
Well, excuse me, young man, but it's just possible that when that particular alleged defendant pulled over, he could have thrown that little baggie down, pulled it out of his wallet, and the cop the other cop saw it. Now, I'm not saying the cop was right. I'm just saying that's another possibility. Because if he knew the cops were going to search him, he'd throw it out of his wallet, out of his pocket, get rid of it, so he can't be nailed for it. But I wanted to show both sides, and you saw the dash cam. Then I got to thinking years ago, many years ago, I was falsely accused by an elected sheriff's deputy, his favorite deputy. That deputy later was taken off the force, lost his badge, lost his police credentials, because that deputy that lied against me a year or two later was caught on camera breaking into somebody's fish and game store 200 miles away from the little town he was driving the police vehicle. That deputy was Jeff Banfield, and he was then removed from the police force, but they never put him in jail. Instead, the little town that he allegedly was protecting, 200 miles away from the little town's border, that little town, controlled by a crooked mayor, decided to give him a bonus that equaled the value of the stolen goods that the deputy stole while in uniform using his police vehicle from this little town that only had one police vehicle. And instead of protecting the little town, he went around a lake 200 miles away to break in and steal this stuff. So they gave him a bonus as they discharged him so that the sheriff could cut a deal with the guy that caught him on tape. So he didn't go to jail. He just had to pay the full value of the damage from breaking and entering and what he stole. What a sweet deal. I wonder where Jeff Banfield is today, 20-some years later. Did his wife divorce him and leave him? I don't know. But then I thought that same sheriff that protected his favorite deputy, but at the same time I was pointing out this deputy's bad, he broke into my house, the sheriff did, and arrested my wife. Then we get to a trial, and I had this not so great attorney from St. George, Utah, and he comes over, and this not so great attorney says to me, they want to cut a deal. I said, I don't want a deal. I want all the facts on the record. I want to let the four-person jury decide. Well, the sheriff went in and lied. And I was sitting there like, oh, this is awful. He's telling such ridiculous lies. Then it came our side, the defense side, to speak up. And my attorney had to tell them, by the way, Mrs. Wagner had a little tape recorder running all the time you were searching her house, bullying her, badging her, and doing bad, unofficer-like things. The sheriff winked at the judge. He wasn't even on the stand at that point. The judge said, we'll take a break now for lunch. After lunch, and I had a long talk with my not-so-good attorney, I still said, no, I want to let the jury decide. They were trying to talk us out. They didn't want this on the record. In comes the tape that my wife had running. All the time the sheriff had forced his way into my house, harmed and harassed my pregnant wife. I think she was pregnant then. It was a long time ago. It was like 28 years or 30 years ago. Anyway, as soon as the sheriff then they had another break, and the sheriff got to listen to the evidence that we are about to present to the four-person jury. By the way, one of the jurors was the wife of a police officer, I think, on the sheriff's department. That's how they stacked the jury a little bit, and they had changed the laws so they could do that. Many years ago, when I went to law school, you could not have a police officer or an immediate family member of a police officer or the district attorney's office on the jury for obvious reasons. Anyway, after he heard the tape, the sheriff, I still remember this so clearly, and reading his letter, all brought this all back. I'd forgot about this. It was decades ago. But here comes the sheriff, says, Your Honor, I want to take the stand again. He gets on the stand. They swear him in again. He says, I rescind everything I said earlier this morning. That means I lied, and I want it off the record, so you can't hold me for perjury. That's what that meant. And I sat back in my chair, and I just had to chuckle. Well, it didn't go well for the sheriff. It went well for the Wagoners. But that whole town was corrupt. It was one of these little tiny, tiny towns, about 300-400 people. And it's another issue. But we're ready to go to the next. And all this came back after I read Omar's letter. I don't know if Omar's guilty or not. We're going to show you his video he wanted us to see. But after what they did to the Bundys, and I'm getting to the Bundys too, you know, the Bundys won. If you missed my last show, the Bundys won, hands down, completely. Mistrial with prejudice. They cannot prosecute them again for whatever happened in April of 2014. What happened is they called the militia because they were killing their cattle and trying to get the Bundys to get trigger happy, get their guns to stop the killing of their cattle because they didn't have an order to kill the cattle. Their order was only to remove the cattle. Naughty, naughty, naughty BLM. Hey, let's save a couple $100 million in taxpayers and just abolish the Bureau of Land Management. Abolish it. Cleveland Bundy was right to the beginning. They didn't have jurisdiction. The Washington, D.C. is the only jurisdiction they have. Washington, 10 square miles, and the military bases. They have no jurisdiction anywhere else. If you don't know that, it's time you look at the Bundy case. But what really got the case thrown out, and why Gloria Navarro does not want this case back in, well, I better not tell you that, Evans, because the Bundy's going to use that in their countersuit. But why they don't want it back in is because the head guru of the BLM thugs in their SWAT team uniforms, he had a kill list. Got to kill Cleveland Bundy, got to kill Ahman Bundy, got to kill Dave Bundy, got to kill Ryan Bundy, got to kill this and this and this and this. 25 people. They went out to murder people with your tax money. Killing the cattle was just to get the Bundys to grab their guns. The Bundys didn't bite. They let them kill their cattle and kill their cattle, and it reached a point where they got enough people off I-15, and they said, we got 12 people on horseback, we got a couple dozen more militia, we're going in, we're going to tell them we're taking our cattle back. Peacefully? That's not what the BLM thugs wanted. The federal thugs of the Bureau of Land Management wanted an armed confrontation because they already had snipers ready to blow a hole through Cliven's head, Ahman's head, Ryan's head. They were already in position. Part of the last trial that was declared a mistrial, information came out. Judge didn't want it on the record, didn't want the jury to hear it. So she, in December, dismissed the jury because she could see the jury was going to hear this. Hey, the federal government's got a list. They're coming to kill people. They lied about not having video. Now we find they got video. They lied about 3,000 patients. And Cleveland Bundy, as you see there on the screen, was telling the truth all along. That 71-year-old cowboy that was kept locked up for 700 days, had multiple trials, carried around in chains on his feet, and his ankles, and on his hands, and brutally treated in this private prison called CCA at Pahrump, Nevada, as well as by the federal marshals up in the other place, as well as his sons being found not guilty in Oregon and then transferred down here to be found not guilty again, all the time pretending these are arch violent criminals. And out comes the government's own report. The government's own report said these are non-violent cowboys. That's what they didn't want the jury to hear. Because they've been building it up. These people are so violent, they're so violent. They weren't violent at all. They're ranchers, farmers. They just want the feds to stop messing with their property, killing their cattle. Anyway, that's what we're going to get to. Go ahead with the next one. Let's roll it. Yep. Omar Quasi has brought a wrongful has been wrongfully incarcerated in Las Vegas, Nevada for 31 months and counting. That's even longer than the Bundys have been kept. This is his video. I don't know if you can read all this on your TV screen where you're watching this. I hope you got a large screen, flat screen, you can read it. But what you see here in a little bit is a officer making a stop. I leave it up to you. You make it your own decision. And you can find this on YouTube, by the way. Here it is. I assume that's Omar Quasi there. He's back to us. See why I never go to Las Vegas? I never go to Nevada. I urge people, don't go there. Just boycott the entire state. Nothing but horrors and mafia and trouble. And in fact, I actually know two Las Vegas police officers that used to be strippers.
Where is that?
Now he found some gemstones. He's holding in his hand. Omar had some gemstones, and they're saying that's good enough to go and search his vehicle. The first search of his car was not shown on the body camera. The officer came back to read Miranda rights and then sits Omar on the curb so he can search the car again. In the next video clip, pay close attention. And if you want to go to YouTube and look this up and stop for a minute, you can see the title up there at the top of the screen. Yeah, that's Las Vegas, a place I never go. I stopped going there when I was legally parked in a shopping center to get a piece of pizza and a fruit smoothie, and they towed away the car I was driving. So I'd have to spend $300 to get it back the next day. It's nothing but racketeers and rackets and mafia. And prostitutes in Las Vegas. I really recommend you just boycott it. Go to Mexico City, Cancun, somewhere else and have your fun.
What?
Never go to Las Vegas. That crooked Judge Gloria Navarro breathes there.
Is it his vehicle? Yeah. You don't know what's in your vehicle. Like, what's in my pants is in my pants and all the same old. Well, you're responsible for the vehicle, you know that, right? It's your vehicle, and you're responsible for everything that's inside of it. Well, we don't carry weed around on us. We don't plan shit if that's what you're implying. We don't do that crap, okay? Especially not for misdemeanor weed.
Well, among his complaint, he complained about a false arrest and that the officer Glover stole his personal property. However, Omar did not know at the time that the body cam video showed the officer planting evidence. So there's that letter. All right, bring her back. I'm not saying Omar's right. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm wondering why the letter he sent me was all typed up. usually inmates don't have access to typewriters or computers to type it normally. I know the letter I got from Ryan Bundy when he was incarcerated at the same facility was handwritten. I have another clip about police protection. Are we ready for that, Reggie? Let's roll that one. Because I got a lot of stuff, and I want to show you this mudslide damage. It was horrific. Channel 3 didn't begin to show you where it started, how it went, but I got good footage for you here coming up. And what makes me, if there's that many, I found like 10 videos of Las Vegas cops planting evidence. Or at least that's the claim.
From inside home foreclosure fraudsters.
Yeah, let's roll it. But they went after the Bundys, and they were way out of Las Vegas jurisdiction. Decide to go pick on? Yeah, that's the right one. This is an interesting video. This is about another kind of crime. Or did somebody just randomly decide to go pick on?
Of all buildings.
All the buildings. Yeah. Just shoot one window out in the courthouse, shoot one out at the bank, shoot one out at the towers, and just randomly shoot windows out?
No, it's not random.
Or were they sledgehammered? I don't know, because I wasn't there.
No.
But nobody down at the courthouse, I should say this, nobody down in the courthouse wants to tell you why, how, and when those windows got broken. I know they weren't broken last time I came from Santa Barbara County to Orange County, but they're broken now. And I see Homeland Security cars parked all around. Do you think that's just because the judges are doing such a good job, like Commissioner Leahy, and what's her name, Christina Bauer or Kathleen Bauer?
Oh, Kathleen Bauer. She's at the Fed court, working as a debt collector from the bench.
Yeah. Violating the law every time she sits on the bench, ignoring the Consumer Protection Act, ignoring the fact you can't collect a house for a debt unpaid.
Exactly. But, you know, I'm unfamiliar with the Consumer Protection Act. I'm not familiar with it. But I can
Anything
tell
else you want to tell me about Silverstein?
Well, I
because I got to go.
Okay, yeah, you should probably cover me a little bit regarding Silverstein as far as what happened with me. So my house has a contract on it with America's Wholesale Lender, which does not exist. It never was formed or registered in California or in New York. My deed of trust says that it was formed in New York, and it was not. The Secretary of State says nothing exists. The Franchise Tax Board says nothing exists. Consequently, the four elements of a contract don't exist. The party has to consent to a contract.
Competent parties.
Yeah, competent parties. There has to, see if I'm remembering this, okay, also they have to say
consideration.
Consent. Oh, well, consideration, and it has to be for a lawful purpose. Be used for a lawful purpose as well, and I'm missing some other important ones.
And the parties must be legally competent.
Is that all four of them? Did I cover them? Right, competent parties.
Exchange of goods or service.
Well, people, that was a short one. Back in the studio, we're live here Friday night, and we're going to get to this mudslide thing. What disturbs me about the Bundys and why I showed you that little clip, that was Valerie Lopez. Valerie Lopez in a house that has since been stolen from her by attorneys and judges. Okay, the judges okayed the fraudulent documents. The sheriff did his job and throwing her out of her own house with bogus documents. So you got cops planting evidence in Las Vegas. There was another state I told you about where the cops lied through his teeth and then said, I rescind everything I said earlier this morning. I was in that courtroom. It was about my wife. It was just, my wife was so smart. She had a little tape deck player, and when they busted into our house and came up to rough her up and toss my kids around and be bullies in my home, I wasn't home at the time, she hit the record button and got it all on tape. And it just sat there, an audio tape recording. So when that sheriff was caught, he just came back after the lunch break and said, I rescind everything I said this morning. And, oh, I forgot to tell you what happened. After this humiliating thing where he had to rescind everything he had sworn, you know, an oath to tell the truth, and then had to rescind his sworn testimony. Because if you rescind it while the trial's going on, then they can't prosecute it. So says that state attorney general. So they can lie all they want, and if they get caught, they can take the stand and say, I rescind that. And that's what happened. I ought to get that court record. I should go back. They probably don't even keep it 30 years back. They probably don't even keep it 10 years back. But it would be fun to get the court reporter's copy and just read that. Maybe I'll do that. That would be fun. Forgot all about that till I got Omar's letter. And remember, I'm a great-grandson of an elected sheriff who died from gangrene, from a gunshot when he died in 1878. Sheriff William J. Wagner. Same name as me. What a coincidence. We must be related. Oh, that's right. He's my great-grandfather. You're supposed to laugh, people. Okay, all right. Moving on. We're now getting to something really serious. I thought I should just let it run because this goes to the Bundy case. Are we ready? Are you ready? You want to see a sheriff caught in their lies? You want to see a sheriff caught in his lies? This wasn't the recent Bundy trial. This was the trial before it. Are we ready, Reggie? Let it roll. Let it roll, Reggie. There you see Sheriff Lombardi, Senior Deputy Sheriff, and they're out there at the Bundy Ranch. What are these guys doing? This is Clark County, but they're way out of Las Vegas. I mean, they're more than 50 miles out of Las Vegas. I think it's closer to like 80 miles out of Las Vegas. They're way up there, and there's the Bundys on the other side of the street. There's some people in their getting outside their free speech zone.
Okay. The sheriff's back in town talking to the governor. It could be 2-3 days.
Why can't he make it over the phone?
Are you kidding? Well, that's what he's working on. So I need everybody calm heads, okay? Calm heads, all right? And as far as the cattle's concerned, that decision hasn't been made. What's going to happen with that, all right? And I think if you just take your time, patience, it'll be a benefit for everybody. Are you guys former military? Okay.
I'll do my best.
All right, do your best. What I need you to do is the guys with these rifles and guns like that, keep them calm, okay? Because we're not going to cause any problems, all right?
We don't
the
want
other
to
thing
either.
is we don't want anybody to run over.
Okay.
All right?
And you guys former military. I'll do my best.
So, but it's not going to happen in the next, 8 hours. It's going to, it may be 1 or 2 days, okay?
Let's get some answers. I mean,
okay, well, that's what we're working on, all right?
Okay. That's what we want. We just want something to happen.
Let your dad know, let your brothers know, and your family, all right?
Okay, we want
keep everybody calm.
So we need to have progress that they're working on something. That's what Kevin needs.
We had huge progress already.
I know.
All right, we've gotten BLM to stop their operation.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
We did. We
okay,
did.
so it's all in stages.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, give us a chance.
Give us a chance.
Okay?
Okay, we will.
All right, buddy.
You
Thank
guys do your job. We appreciate
Hey,
it.
and
Thank you.
do not let somebody get run over, please.
Okay.
All right?
No, that was my dad. All right, let's get off of the highway here. Come on, let's move back off the highway.
Back off the highway, please.
Now, I hope you can read this transcript. It's a little difficult to read, but what is said here on this court transcript, and this isn't the most recent trial of the Bundys, this is the prior trial, which the Bundys also won. On this one, you got a transcript, and what's stated on the transcript does not quite jive with what you just saw in the video. This is how we catch people being dishonest. Videotapes. It should be illegal for a police officer or BLM officer, or any kind of a government agent, to tell any person they cannot videotape what the government's doing in public. Dave Bundy never states you have 1 hour to release the cattle, and never even mentions cattle. Lie. That's the point they want you to get out of this. You saw the video, you heard Dave Bundy, and you heard the police officers, specifically Lombardo. There wasn't a word said in that part. Sheriff Lombardo, delusional, or is he a liar? Or does he need to cover up for the BLM, the FBI, and everybody all the way up to Gloria Navarro, the crooked little wet nurse judge? Somebody needs to impeach her and indict her.